All right, hey, how's everybody doing? In the book group, I'm actually getting really, really bad at remembering to do all my assignments earlier in the week. I apologize for that. I got a new promotion at my job, and it is starting to wear on my time. I'm getting home and pretty much not in the mood to even mess with this. But aside from that, I'm going to start next week on trying to get into it and get really in depth and start giving better posts and respond to everybody in an effective, efficient manner so that we can all go back and forth and try to get a little bit more out of this in the last 6 weeks that we have left in the class. So, if we're talking about the middle of our books, and for one, just as a reminder, I'm reading A Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Henley. So one of the things I see in the discussion board that we're supposed to do for our initial post is how well does the author build the character for the novel? As I've gotten further in the novel, I started realizing that I'm not really a big fan of the main character of the novel. Um, they start referring to him as Mike, so it's if I'm gonna look at a note I had as to remember exactly what his name is. It is Vincent. It's Valentine Michael Smith. Later on in the story, they stop calling him Valentine Michael Smith. They just leave it at Mike. So that's just, if I do later post in the class, if I start just referring to him as Mike, it gives you the heads up. This character, since he's not human to start off with, it makes it a little bit difficult to judge his emotional response to other characters. One thing they mainly focus on is it's a motif that you see constantly in the novel as far as the how he bonds with other characters through the drinking of water. He calls it the water sharing ceremony or the water drinking ceremony, something like that. But that starts to become a pivotal point on how he judges people. People that don't want to do the ceremony with him, he doesn't really feel is trustworthy to them. People that that do it, he starts to build these like strong relationships. The only problem I have with that is that, as like I said, as the story develops, I feel like the characters around him are not really. He holds it in higher regard when they just look at it as just drinking a glass of water, and they start playing on that to use it for more selfish means or how can I put it, more not really for his benefit. Like I said, more selfish needs. Once everybody finds out that he's basically the inheritor of multiple, I would say multiple families and their inheritance, that starts to become a major focus for the I think it's called the Frontier Alliance or something like that. It's basically the mega corporations that run interstellar travel in this era of time. They know has a large majority interest in how things are going to progress with those companies and a shared interest in how that progresses, and they basically are using everything in their power to make sure that he can't call the shots later on as he becomes more aware and becomes more fluent in Earth culture and starts to speak like a human and act like humans. I think later on the romantic side of the novel, I think it starts to become yet again one of those times where I'm not, and don't get me wrong, if there's any females within our group, and I know there's a couple of ladies within our groups, I don't want this to seem like my own personal opinion, but it's just how it's reflected in the novel. I feel like the women in the story that are attracted to Michael, I feel like they're just simply there using him to see if they can ride his coattail to better days, basically. And I don't really like how that's portrayed in the story, but I see how the author develops that as being something that a reader would have to pay attention to, because there's multiple love interests in the story revolving females being interested in Michael as he slowly progresses later on in the story, which, like I said, I'm not really fond of it. Does the character development hold my interest? Not for those first like 7 or 8 chapters. It didn't. I mean, it started getting interesting, and then it just took a nosedive, and it didn't pick up till about, I'd say, maybe chapter 12 or 13, I'd say. And it started picking up a little bit more, and then, like I said, over time, I just kind of been going with it, just so I could have something to discuss in my discussion board post. What elements of young adult fiction, romance genres, and tropes are present in the novel that I'm reading? I think I pretty much explained that. There's, the connection, the building of friendships. One of the ladies that he starts building the friendship with, it's kind of nice to see that, because she actually doesn't have I wouldn't say a romantic interest, but it's the pleasantries behind the interaction between men and women that you see in the novel that makes it appear to be a romantic interest, but it's not. Other than that, I'm going to cut this one short because I don't want to go over too much more time. I think I'm already at 5 minutes and some change. And hopefully I get some responses, because I did kind of post this really, really late. Y'all enjoy the rest of your night.